What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Crunch Time here on RotoGrinders. I am Britt Devine, joined by my man TJ. TJ, it's been a minute since I've been on. I had a lot going on with a new baby over the past few weeks. Christmas, New Year's. Thankful, happy to be back on the weekend Crunch Time with you, my man. How's it been going?
Happy to be back with you as well. Life's going pretty well. You know, it's cold here. There's lots of snow, but other than that, life's good. Doing lots of content, and happy New Year's Eve to you, Britt.
Yeah, it is a happy New Year's. Everyone be safe out there. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, which maybe 20 years ago didn't really preclude you from doing much. But now, 20 years later, I'm going to bed at about 8:30 tonight, hopefully, by the time it's all said and done. But TJ, I was talking to you pre-show. This slate, maybe about 45 minutes ago, I was looking at it, and there was a lot of ways you could go. And it has become very clear. Everyone in the world is going to be playing Cleveland. Everyone in the world is going to be playing the Knicks tonight. So before we get into some of the cash game stuff here,
get ready for everyone to be playing the Philadelphia 76ers as well, because we have James Harden and PJ Tucker out.
Oh, yeah. So look at this. We got all this. So off the top of your head, try to dissect that for people, right? Because this is where maybe you're going to get a little bit of an edge over the casual player. Maybe they got some of that news earlier. With these guys out for Philadelphia, that is an 8 o'clock game, so you will have the ability to late swap. It's against OKC. Like, Embiid's going to have to go nuts. We're already going to be playing Melton a little bit. Who's going to be coming up from the bench here that's going to be interesting?
So, because I think this slate kind of exists on its own a little bit, and because it's New Year's Eve, I don't think we got to try and get all that cute. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think we got to try and get all that crazy different today. And as long as we just play a bunch of the top plays, find one or two ways to get different today, that's all we're going to really need to do. Find yourself a way to get Joel Embiid, Julius Randle, Luka Doncic, LaMelo Ball. Pick two of those four and get yourselves them. Make sure you're getting quickly and DeAnthony Melton in your pool as well. And just mix in some, get your Kevin Loves, get your Karis LeVerts. Kevin Love is going to be one of my favorite plays on the slate. I want to get to an absolute ton of Cleveland, maybe run it back with that's kind of the one thing I do in tournaments today to get a little bit different would be, we want to play a lot of New York. Okay, well, let's run it back with some Houston. We got no Şengün. As soon as we get this starting lineup here, is it going to be Bruno Fernando? Is it going to be Usman Garuba? Either way, I think I want to play a lot more Kenyon Martin. Looking at this Cleveland side, we want to play a lot of Cleveland while mixing a little bit of Levine and DeRozan, who have been playing great basketball lately, that kind of thing.
And then also in Minnesota, right, we've got Gobert, Anthony Edwards questionable, and I think there was someone else too. They do this a lot on the weekends. We'll have to see how that happens for Minnesota. So pay attention. You might be able to get some late swap news here. Do you think – so, like, right before the show, I was putting together and I was looking at some of the RotoGrinders optimals. And outside, at least on Fanduel, let's start there, the sponsor of our show, the most expensive players I had Julius Randle and Donovan Mitchell. Would you forego one of them to now – try to get Embiid, who's a little bit more expensive, at least from a cash game perspective? You might have to cut, like, there's so many good high-end plays now with these players out. Mitchell, Randall, Embiid. How do you rank those, at least from a salary perspective? And of course, you've got Luka, but Luka has gone from someone who 45 minutes ago I was thinking is a lock in cash, and now he's basically last in line of the stars, even though he can post these absolutely massive games. It's really crazy.
I would definitely drop him behind Embiid now. The way that I'd kind of look at this for like my core for cash today, I'd be wanting to make sure I played Melton, Mitchell, Quickly, Randall, and Love. Those are kind of like the five that I think are musts on FanDuel. And then, like, to me, the big thing is like, does Rudy Gobert play? Because that's why it's nice that Philadelphia game isn't until 8 o'clock, because if Gobert is in, I'm fine with foregoing Joel Embiid and just playing Naz Reid, because he's cheap enough and in such a good spot that he's still the top play at that position, especially going up against a team like Detroit. However, if all of a sudden Gobert is in, then I would be wanting to pay up for a guy like Joel Embiid. If Anthony Edwards is out, I all of a sudden kind of go, no, I'm definitely not playing Luka. I want to be paying down for D'Angelo Russell because he becomes a cash game must. And so to me, it kind of, I want to like these, I'm going to get my fair share of New York, Cleveland, maybe a little LaMelo Ball and stuff like that. But I, for the most part, still want to be doing some waiting for these 8 o'clock games to hit because we do have some massive news here. And then if you don't get it, you can just try and make some pivots to Miami.
Yeah, I want to, and sorry for not doing the normal route here. There's just so much late news here today that I want to sort of work through some situations with TJ. The New York game, the Cleveland game, they're at 7. Is there anyone you would forego on purpose to wait until you get some of the Minnesota news today? Let's pretend we don't get this at 7 o'clock. Is there a player to, I think from cash, I'm going to take the known over the unknown if I don't have access to that information at 6:55, TJ. And I think that's the best way to play it. Play the Cleveland guys, play the New York guys. But maybe more from a tournament perspective, are you looking to maybe leave a spot open, maybe forego a Kevin Love or a LeVert or a Donovan Mitchell to try to get some of that Minnesota news? Does that make sense?
I think LeVert would be the one I'd be most willing to forego. But at the moment right now, I'm kind of playing this as if Minnesota guys are going to be out. Just how everyone's status has kind of trended today. I'm assuming this is going to just be a bit of a New Year's Eve thing where a bunch of people are sitting. And so if that is the case, I feel like the lineup kind of builds itself pretty darn nice here. And I don't need to forego anybody in these first games. I look at kind of like what I view as a sort of optimal quote unquote lineup when we have, assuming these Minnesota guys are out, and the lineup basically builds itself completely except for a $5,300 small forward. I'd need to find someone to fit in there. So I really like how that looks. And I don't think I would go out of my way to make fades because of this, because like you mentioned, these early guys are in such good spots. However, that always is my tiebreaker. If there's potential late news to break and I'm deciding somebody between the early game and the late game and I don't know, I just pick the late one.
Yeah. All right. So real quick, that was some of the major news. I just wanted to work with all that with TJ, with you guys, some of my thoughts and his. Real quick for cash, pretty simple. If we don't get that Minnesota news by, let's say, 6:55, and you want to play it safe, play the New York value, play the Cleveland value. That includes, this is going to be for both sites. Quickly, for sure, he has to be the top play of the night, TJ. Both sites lock him in cash. If he's not 100% owned, that's absolutely a tragedy tonight. What's he going to play? 43, 44 minutes probably. He's the number one player. I think Melton, certainly at his price point, has to be number 2. With Harden out, he was already popping. With Harden in there, you're going to have to look at him. LeVert, right? These 3 guys, all value, both sites.
The one thing I want to say about LeVert specifically is get him in there at the small forward position, not the shooting guard position, because small forward is a lot weaker than guard is today. And then that also gives you the opportunity to say later, oh, D'Angelo Russell, oh, Jalen Noel, one of these players with Anthony Edwards out, with Kyle Anderson out, Rudy Gobert out, I want to be getting there. And so it allows you to mix in one of those players not starting at 6 p.m. without, 7 p.m. without having to sacrifice Anthony Melton.
And if anyone sees news on that Minnesota game, please put it in YouTube, ping me in Discord, whatever you guys got to do to get my attention. That would be great if you happen to come across anything. Randall, Mitchell, Embiid. If you can't get Embiid, I think Embiid's going to have a pretty big game here. Mitchell also going to have a big game. Randall also going to have a big game. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world if you can't absolutely land on Embiid tonight. So I think I would prefer Mitchell and Randall, at least on Fanduel. On DraftKings, I think it's maybe a little easier to get to him, but you have a way too cheap Jared Allen over there. You've got Naz Reid. You can put him in the utility, give yourself some late swap ability. But I also think Reid, as you mentioned above on DraftKings, he's playable on his own tonight over there, along with a guy like Kevin Love. If you were happen to get him, he's a power forward, 4,200, just a little bit too cheap, but absolutely get quickly LeVert, Melton, Randall, Mitchell. These guys are pretty much the must plays across all the sites. Do you think Kevin Love a must play? He's popping on DraftKings. He's popping on FanDuel for me. I know you mentioned him as one of your favorite plays, and then I just too cheap now in the starting lineup.
Yeah, too cheap in the starting lineup, and I just can't make a fade on a guy that can 10x his salary in 25 minutes. Like it's just not worth it. You play Kevin Love. I do think that like the somewhat chalky big I'd be most likely to fade is going to be Bam Adebayo, someone we haven't even really talked about. We're projecting for somewhere around 30% ownership. No Jimmy Butler. He'd be the one I'd be most likely to fade of that entire group and just really go heavy on the two Cleveland bigs and Jared Allen and Kevin Love, and then as much Julius Randle and Joel Embiid as I can.
Yeah. All right. So I think the cash lineup, I know they usually spend a little bit more time on it, going position by position and all of that, but it's very simple tonight. Play the New York guys, play the Cleveland guys, mix in a Joel Embiid, mix in a Melton, mix in a couple of the Detroit guys. I think they're too cheap. A Jaden Ivey. I want to mention some of my. I put a bet up on Scores and Odds, our sports betting app here at RotoGrinders. Jaden Ivey assists around the industry was around -120 at 4.5. You can get that. That's my favorite prop of the day. His double too, right? He's playing point guard tonight. He had 12 possible assists in his last game. I think a double. It's not on Fanduel. If you poke around, maybe the other big sports betting site, he was plus 1,600 for a double. So check out that for Jaden Ivey. And another bet I've made, Quentin Grimes was over 2.5 3-pointers. A couple of games ago, he chucked up 16 3-pointing attempts in a similar situation where there are a couple players out. I think he's an interesting bet from a perspective of maybe able to knock down a couple of threes. So there's some sports bets for you. There's some cash game talk. I want to talk tournaments. So you made some good points, like Bam Adebayo, right? 45 minutes, an hour ago, I was looking at playing this dude in cash as like a lock, and he's so far down the pole now. TJ, moving to him, a Tyler Hero, right? Like you don't have to get far away from the best plays anymore. There's just so many good plays, and you just mix in a couple of, like Adebayo is going to be 25-30% earlier, and now he's going to be what, like 8-10% because of all the value we have. What are
we
some
didn't
other
even
guys
mention Shake Milton, who is currently now the best projected RG value on the slate. If you refresh, we got him in for 35 minutes and 30 fantasy points right now at 3.9K.
Yeah,
and
that
so
helps you get an Embiid.
Helps you get Embiid big time, some value that we've kind of been actively waiting for. I do think you can play both Milton in your cash games and tournaments today. I don't even really think you need a run back if you want to play a lot of Philly players in this one. But with so much late news and this being New Year's Eve, I don't know how much you have to just try and get crazy today. I think we can play a lot of the top plays on this slate, get to a lot of Milton and Melton, get to a lot of Kevin Love and Jared Allen. And I don't think they're going to be that crazy high owned as they typically would be on this type of slate. And so I'm not looking to get too different. Now that we got some value, heck, I'll mix in a little. If I'm playing lots of lineup, I'll mix in a little Luka. But the biggest thing I'm going to make sure of is that my lineups have kind of correlation with each other. If I want to play some Detroit guys like you're talking about, well, in that lineup, I'm also going to make sure I'm playing some Minnesota ones. Where I'm loading up on New York, I want to mix in a little bit of Houston value. I don't really want to waste my center position on a guy like Bruno Fernando, but both Fernando and Usman Garuba, who have ceilings as potential values, have power forward eligibility, and that's one of the weaker positions on the slate, allow you to pay up for a guy like Embiid, or if you're just playing Randall and quickly and heck even add Grimes, then you probably want to be running it back with a Houston player, and some of that cheap value is definitely an option if you're not wanting to go up to Jalen Green or Kevin Porter. You're just wanting to save some salary. So big thing for me is just going to be making sure I have some runbacks on the other team, playing lots of New York, get a little Houston, playing lots of Cleveland, get a little Chicago, and then make sure I'm mixing in that Minnesota-Detroit game quite a bit as well.
I want to go maybe it's just everyone's going to be on mostly the same plays. Maybe let's go each game real here quick and your best maybe one-off tournament player, right? Because everyone's going to have a couple Knicks players. Everyone's going to have a couple Cleveland players. Everyone's going to have a couple Philadelphia players. Who are a couple targets to mix it in there? Brooklyn, Charlotte, right? Kyrie, LaMelo, Durant. Which one is the player that you would be more apt to throw into a tournament lineup tonight instead of one of those other superstars?
On FanDuel, it's definitely LaMelo just because he's still 9,300. That's way too cheap for him. Kyrie's price isn't bad. I think he's possible if you're running 150. I'd get Simmons and Durant in as well. But other than that, I'm not trying to get to a lot of Brooklyn today.
All right, Dallas, San Antonio. We've got Luka. Is there anyone else? I know Keldon Johnson was pretty popular earlier in the day, and I was looking at him. He's someone who's gone, way down the totem pole of players we want to play tonight. I think he's pretty interesting at an ownership that's probably a fifth of what it was maybe an hour ago. I like him. Is there anyone else from that game you're actively targeting? I'll throw in a Christian Wood too, who just has some massive upside every time he starts right now.
In terms of actively targeting, no. However, if I'm building lots of lineups for the Spurs, I'm keeping in Keldon, Trey Jones, and Jeremy Sohan in my pool. And then on the Dallas side of things, obviously Luka Doncic, and then I would include Tim Hardaway Jr. as well because he's got that small forward eligibility at a weaker position. Like you mentioned, Christian Wood has some upside, but that's also a guy I'd only get to if I was running 150. We just have so many teams in such extreme spots today that I don't really want to mess around with a fully healthy team unless I'm playing a ton of lineups, just mixing them in for a potential ceiling game.
Yeah, New Orleans, Memphis, you got a favorite from that one?
I did call CJ McCollum my GPP Let's Get Weird play on the morning grind the other day, and that worked out pretty darn well.
I think he's still hitting 3-pointers, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that worked out pretty darn well for yesterday. But I mean, probably Zion. Zion as a pivot off of Randall would be my favorite tournament option in this game on New Orleans. And then Desmond Bane projects well for his price, but that kind of be it for me on Memphis.
Yeah, and then the Miami, Utah. Of course, we got Bam. I think Hero's pretty interesting. Anyone from the Utah side? I know a Conley, Markkanen, these guys have the ability to have big games, maybe stifled a little bit against Miami, but no one's going to play a Markkanen tonight. No one's going to play Conley anymore because we have all this even cheaper value that's going to play a ton of minutes. Are any of those guys interesting, or are you more likely to just play the Miami side?
Harrow at low ownership without Jimmy Butler is going to be one of my favorite tournament plays on the slate. Kelly Olynyk at 5,800 is a price tag that I like. Little revenge for him against Miami. But I think that's mostly going to be it for me.
All right, let's go. Let's get some questions. We're going to have a lot of this guy, that guy.
We still got DK to hit too.
Yeah, well, I mean, what do you want to talk about on DK? I think to me, it's, I'm looking at the lineups I've put together. It's pretty much the same guys on both sides, at least from the cash game perspective. It's Cleveland, it's Philadelphia, it's the Knicks. I don't really think you have to do, that's literally who's in my lineup. Maybe there's a Desmond Bane or a Keldon Johnson, one off guy just makes the lineup fit somewhere else. But that's really where I'm coming at from the cash game. Is there anything specific DraftKings you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, Joel Embiid is a lot easier to get to. He's much more of a priority for two reasons. One, because he's a little bit cheaper and we have more value. But in addition to that, Naz Reid has power forward eligibility on top of his center eligibility, and we can play two centers. So to me, as it stands right now, the first 5 positions in your lineups kind of fill out pretty darn easily. You have Noto's 4 core plays tagged, and then you have Naz Reid you can mix in on top of that. He's currently with Gobert projected, he's still a fine cash game play. He's still a good play at 24 minutes. If we get Gobert out, if we get Kyle Anderson out at $4,700, Naz Reid is the best play on the slate. So to me, if it's me personally, I'm plugging in Kevin Love at that power forward, then I'm plugging in Naz Reid at the forward position. Love and LeVert are both way cheaper on DraftKings than they are FanDuel. So this Cleveland value kind of becomes priority number 1 for me over there. Quickly's cheaper as well. So it really just allows us to do the double pay up. And I think the way that I'd want to go about it today in cash games would be paying up for either both Luka and Embiid or making sure you get both Randall and Embiid. To be honest, the perfect cash game lineup to me just builds itself. It's ideal on DraftKings here. You get all the players you could possibly want, assuming Naz Reid is going to be in there. The only one I'd forego that I'd be worried about would be D'Angelo Russell, but I'm able to get my expensive studs in there I like. So DraftKings build to me is just like super straightforward if you plug in Naz Reid, and I think it's necessary.
All right, let's run to our Discord. We're going to go to the NBA Crunch Time, take it from our premium members. We'll get to YouTube in just a second. Carolina wanted to know, how many studs in a FanDuel tournament are you playing? So what's a stud to you? I would say Donovan Mitchell, Joel Embiid, and
If you
Julius.
categorize it as like, I don't think you do it by player. I think you just do it by price on this one, because we do have the guys above there. And I think it's kind of the look of like, am I mid-tiering or am I stars and scrubsing? And I honestly think on FanDuel, how it goes right now is, I think the answer in terms of players over 10K I'd want to have in a cash game lineup, it might be 0. Like Julius Randle might be my most expensive guy, so I could just stick with the Randalls, the Mitchells, and then the 7 and 6K range. Maybe get up to the Bams or the LaMelos if they fit my spots. But on FanDuel, with the lack of value, Joel Embiid would be my favorite one to get to if I am paying it, but I do think it's potentially warranted to just like stick with everybody under 10K today, because their pricing has been so much tougher than DraftKings lately. They're just so much quicker to price guys up, and they any player that's the mid 4Ks and on DraftKings seems to be like low 6, high 5s on FanDuel. So it's pretty tough.
All right, let's get to favorite spend up single entry on FanDuel. So I was looking, Embiid's 11-4. I honestly, I still think it's Luka. If you can definitely get to Luka. His ownership was in the 30s earlier. It's down to 12 on FanDuel in our latest run here. I mean, that nobody's going to be playing him because the guard spots are loaded now. That looks absolutely amazing from a single entry perspective now.
It does. I agree with you. The biggest thing I've noticed on FanDuel lately is just like with studs up over 12K, it's really hard to build a lineup you like. It's really hard to not have players you're uncomfortable with in there. And I think the strategy on FanDuel with how the pricing currently is mid-tier builds are the new stars and scrubs builds. I just like, you plug Luka into your lineup here, and like you just get your main guys that you want in. Say Luka's just like your one differentiator, right? So you get the rest of your main guys you get in. You get Melton, quickly, Donovan Mitchell, Julius Randle. It leaves you $4,500 per position after that. And when we look at the FanDuel prices, all of our best value, it's in the 5K, 6K range. We got like Kevin Love and Shake Milton today as the only 2 players below 5K on all of FanDuel with a positive RG value.
Tough.
And that's with all of these injuries. Like, they've just been spot on at pricing up.
A couple NBA DFS want to know, this is FanDuel Cash, Bane and Ivy or Shake and Tyler Hero? He has Mitchell, but he has 400 left. Should he go to Ball over Mitchell?
So it's Bane and Ivy or Shake and Donovan Mitchell? Definitely Shake and Donovan Mitchell.
No, Bane and Ivy or Shake and Tyler Hero?
Oh, Shake and Hero. Sorry. I'd still go Shake and Hero.
All right. If you have 400 left and you have Mitchell, this is in cash. Would you go to LaMelo Ball or would you play with Donovan Mitchell? I would think I would stick with Donovan Mitchell tonight.
I would stick with Donovan Mitchell, yes, but it is tough. As it stands right now, like on the RotoGrinders premium projections, we have LaMelo Ball projected for 0.86 more fantasy points. 0.85 more fantasy points. So it's very close, but I think I'd go Mitchell.
Aside 12, FanDuel Cash, Randall and Hardaway Jr. or Mitchell and Keldon. I think I would go with the Mitchell and Keldon spot there for FanDuel.
Yeah, I think so too.
Achilles DraftKings Cash. This is a 3 first, so pay attention. Luka, Randall, and Sadiq Bey, or Mitchell, Embiid, and Harris. That second one sounds pretty juicy right now to me.
Is Harris Tobias Harris?
Yeah, I would assume so.
I don't really want to play Tobias Harris, but I guess, yeah, that second one.
Yeah, I'll take that second one as well. A couple others. Let's see. I see a couple people typing. I'm going to go over to YouTube really quick here.
I would play Boyan Bogdanovic or Ben Simmons both over Tobias Harris today.
All right. So we've got someone says, Rudy's on the court warming up. Sometimes I will search Twitter for like Minnesota warming up or pregame and try to find some pictures from someone in the stadiums on who's out there. So that's a good thing to know. Rudy Gobert's out there. Does that sway you at all from using Naz Reid? I think Naz Reid is still playable even if Gobert plays, right?
Yeah, on Fanduel, maybe it makes me more interested in getting up to Embiid there. But like we can wait a little bit on that one. And on DraftKings, I don't think it matters all that much just because he's so darn cheap. Yeah, maybe Rudy Gobert plays, but Gobert and Reed were playing together the other day at like power forward and center. So if Kyle Anderson's out, he's still probably in for 30 plus minutes. And then if you happen to just get everybody in for Minnesota, as long as you got 200 left in your lineup, you can just make a $200 pivot up to Jeremy Sohan.
Arlo in our RotoGrinders Discord wanted to know, is it okay fading Julius Randle in DraftKings cash? He's 10-1. I just have trouble because the dude's going to play, I think the minimum in a competitive game is 40 minutes. You just don't don't get that type of minutes from some of these other guys, even in their best spots. I think Randall's you almost have to play him.
Randall Embiid is my two preferred pay-ups on DraftKings, but I think the only way you can forego that is if you do Luka Embiid. Mm-hmm. It's just I would rather do Randall for the 2K price difference and the Dallas game probably being a blowout.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to ignore Quickly and Randall personally because they're just the minutes, like the floor is 40 barring insane foul trouble, and I think the ceiling is like 44, and that's just insane to get in a regular season NBA game. So I like those quite a bit. Aside wants to know, FanDuel Cash, another 3 first, so pay attention. Noel, Randall, and Tobias Harris, or Mitchell, LeVert, and Keldon. That is
second
easily number 2 for me. Aside, I'm in agreement with TJ. Going back to YouTube really quick, a cuz wanted them to know DraftKings Cash, Melton and Randall, or Naz and Embiid, and I guess we're going to assume Rudy's in for this particular question.
I think I would probably go Melton and Randall, but I do really want to try and get both Randall and Embiid on my DraftKings Cash team.
Yes, I agree. I do have both of those guys on my DraftKings Cash team personally. All right, YouTube. A couple more. Let's see. KJ Martin. Tangenstein want to know Noel, KJ Martin, or Sadiq Bey for low-cost utility on DraftKings for our tournament play.
Noel, if Anthony Edwards is out, and it gets even better if Kyle Anderson is out. However, if Minnesota guys get ruled in, then that is going to be Kenyon Martin for me, but it's 2 minutes to lock, and that's the first game, and we don't know. So I would probably go with Noel and just wait and see, make another pivot if it doesn't work. However, as it stands right now, Kenyon Martin would be my favorite, assuming the Minnesota guys are in.
All right. Scouring Twitter for any sort of news on Minnesota. I don't see anything out there, so we're just going to have to wait and see. Be ready to late swap. You're not going to have many spots left. I don't even know. You're probably not going to be able to take advantage of the Minnesota news if some of those guys are out. So just play what you know, in my opinion. Play the Knicks, play Cleveland. You can maybe swap around Embiid, swap around some of the Philly guys to get to Minnesota, but the Philly value is also very good as well. So I would just play what you know and try not to worry too much about missing out on Minnesota, at least from a cash game perspective. Any final thoughts, TJ? We're about a minute from lock.
I think that's it. Happy New Year's, everyone. Hopefully you get to end the year on a bang, make a little bit of money. Make sure you hit the like button on the way out. You're watching here on YouTube. Help us out. Take that little mouse, slide it over 1 inch, press that like button. Helps us out greatly. Let's end this new year out on a positive note.
Yeah, what's Mr. TJ doing tonight?
Just gonna hang out. I don't need to be going out and partying anymore,
No.
but there's also lots of snow just everywhere right now, so I don't really even want to. My wife and I are just gonna hang out, watch some movies, hang out with the animals, and that's about it.
Yep, the baby's going to bed at 8:00. I'm hoping to be sleeping at a latest 9:00 tonight. So that's how I'm playing New Year's Eve. A little tired. It was a long Christmas. It's been a long week, but I am looking forward to getting some sleep. Starting off fresh in the new year. Whew, thought I was going to sneeze there. Managed to keep it back for everybody. It is 7:00. TJ, what did you pull up? You got something on FanDuel from like a tournament perspective on ownership on some of these guys? I'm just interested to see how high it gets on the Randalls, on Cleveland, or anybody like that.
No, I did not play tonight, actually.
Oh, you got nothing on there. All right, let me see if I can pull something up. I just have cash games, but I mean, that's a little boring to talk ownership on some of these guys. Let's see here.
You got to get that cash game lineup into a couple tournaments as well.
I do. So the secret is you play them in the 100-man top 12 paid on FanDuel.
Yeah.
And that basically gives you the tournament upside. You'll finish. It's crazy, TJ. I'll finish like 60th, literally out of the money in a 50-50, and I'll finish in the top 12.
Cash games is too hard these days. I don't play them. I just I honestly think you can do optimal things in tournaments because cash game, the lines, like the cash lines, are higher than tournaments these days.
Mm-hmm. I had the under in the TCU Michigan game. So that is obviously not working out too well for me at the moment. Let's go Ohio State. Need them to make the college night come to a positive because apparently in the third quarter they scored about a bajillion points in that game. So I'm no longer sweating the under. Our producer Steve, he's got TCU. So let's go, Steve. I'll root for you on that one, and I think we're both on Ohio State tonight. Other than that, I hope everybody does good in DFS, sports betting, whatever you got tonight. May all your bets ring true into the new year. For TJ, I'm Britt. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a happy new year, and we out, you.